When the trailer for Animal Farm came out, the response wasn't just negative, it was confused. What is this? How did this happen? Am I losing my mind? Since the film's release, the backlash has only grown. The internet is calling it overly simplistic, tonally misguided, and outright offensive to author George Orwell himself. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Emily, and I love comparing books to their on-screen adaptations. Almost always, I'll argue the book is better, but Animal Farm might be the exception. What? Is she serious? No, I don't actually think the movie is any good, but I think the hate it's getting isn't only applicable to the adaptation, but to the source material itself. If you need a refresher, Animal Farm is a 1945 novella about a group of farm animals who overthrow their human owner in an attempt to create a society where all animals are equal. Over time, that ideal collapses. The pigs consolidate power, rewrite the rules, hoard resources, and eventually become indistinguishable from the humans they replaced. It's a not-so-subtle retelling of the Russian Revolution and the rise of Stalinism. Every character and event maps onto something real. Old Major pulls from Marx and Lenin, Napoleon and Snowball are Stalin and Trotsky, Boxer represents the working class, and the Windmill Project represents the Soviet Union's industrialization efforts. It's clean, structured, and almost mechanical in its symbolism. It's also, fundamentally, a simplification. When the Animal Farm manuscript was first submitted, Orwell subtitled it A Fairy Story. That label was later dropped or replaced with a satire. But the original framing matters, because Animal Farm is a fable, an allegory, a political parable. All these forms rely on accessibility, symbolism, and moral compression. They are, by design, reductive. If you strip away Animal Farm's historical context, what's left is a very general idea, that power corrupts. Something that, in 2026, feels less like insight and more like a truism. As Rebecca Herring argues in the Pitt Journal essay, some interpretations are more equal than others. Out of context, Animal Farm can stand for just about any ideology, in part because of its allegorical form. And throughout history, it has. English communists saw it as anti-Soviet propaganda, others thought it was a defense of capitalism. Later readings framed it as a critique of all ruling classes, and even decades later, critics are still debating whether it's for or against revolution. The confusion came not only from the reader's prejudices, but also from the story itself. Even today, interpretations vary widely. Look at these range of Goodreads reviews. Animal Farm is a metaphor for China's economic shift, a warning about totalitarianism broadly, a statement about human nature itself, and a critique on interchangeable isms. When something like Animal Farm can start applying to everything, it risks meaning nothing in particular. Now, let's get into why people hate the movie. A lot of the criticism falls into three main categories. First, the tone. The movie is accused of sanitizing the story, becoming a kid-friendly movie, which adds slapstick, fart jokes, and overall clashes with the original's bleakness. Second, the huge changes in plot. Animal Farm 2026 introduces new elements like Lucky, reworks characters, and reframes Mr. Pilkington into a Mrs., a Jeff Bezos-like tech billionaire with an outsized influence over Napoleon. And finally, people complain that the political focus shifts away from its anti-Soviet roots towards something more generalized or even anti-capitalist. The animals are also given a happy ending instead of a grim one, which we see in the book. And all of this feeds into one central accusation, that the film fundamentally misunderstands what Animal Farm is about. But again, this assumes that there's a single, incorruptible version of Animal Farm, which we've already shown isn't true. People reject the simplification and sanitization, arguing that it shouldn't have been made for kids, forgetting that the book is already taught to kids as early as middle school. And let's not forget, at 141 pages, the book compresses decades of history, competing political theories, and global economic systems into essentially a barnyard fable. So what exactly is the acceptable level of simplification for a story that is itself a simplification? As for the ideological shift, allegory, as I've discussed, is particularly vulnerable to reinterpretation. Orwell, who is a self-proclaimed democratic socialist, most likely didn't intend for Animal Farm to become known as an anti-communist text, which is essentially what it became when the CIA funded the first 1954 adaptation and reshaped the ending for Cold War messaging. In 2026, director Andy Serkis has seemingly shifted the target to capitalism, which at the very least is something modern audiences actually live under and experience, and, in my opinion, is worth critiquing. I'm usually a huge proponent of adaptations being faithful to their source material. Even across different mediums, I think that there should be some core idea or spirit that stays intact. But with Animal Farm, I'm just not convinced the gap is as big as people think. A common comment under any review of the movie is, just go read the book instead. And I get it. The book is better written and darker for sure, but I would caution that both the book and the movie are doing the same thing, taking something complex and making it simple enough for a wide audience to understand. We treat Animal Farm as both specific and universal, as both a sharp political critique and a timeless fable, as both precise and endlessly adaptable, but it cannot fully be all of those things at once. So I don't think that the 2026 adaptation undermines Animal Farm's message, it actually just highlights its ambiguity, because if Animal Farm can be reshaped to fit any ideology, it doesn't actually tell us what to think, it simply reflects what we already believe. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked that video, don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.